The United Performing Arts Fund invites you to expose yourself to talking animals, to plays about pee-pee, to ideas that won't fit in 140 digital characters. Expose yourself to real characters, to Beethoven, to women who dig very hairy men. No matter what you're into, there's a performance this season that has it. So just buy a ticket. It never goes down the same way twice, but go down, it will. Right here in Milwaukee. Find your performance at mkearts.com.
Blog Talk Radio.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Sin's Chat Corner on our Wednesday afternoon edition. Actually, later day, I should say. We had to do a little rescheduling here since Cindy had to go to the doctor, and if you were on social media, you already see the results of that, so no need for us to get back into that one again. Just again wanted to remind everybody, thank you so much for all of your care and concern and thoughts and prayers and messages. I am reading them. I'm just very silent as I try to cope with all the things that are going on, but I just want you to know how much I appreciate it. Want to remind everybody, if you haven't checked recently, either on the website for my film festival or on Facebook, go ahead. Art is Alive Film Festival, otherwise artisalivefilmfestival.yolasite.com. I have updated the winners list. I've updated, I've put up literally almost every picture that I could find from the festival. I'm going to be updating the website with those pictures, and then, of course, obviously we'll have the video of the Q&A. I'm still trying to collect all of it, but I think I have a good majority of it so far, so we'll just keep working on that. Get that posted up so you guys can take a peek at that. So it's artisalivefilmfestival.yolasite.com. So if you haven't checked it out, please make it a point to do so, just because everybody puts so much work and time and effort into it, well, including myself, obviously. So I want you guys to go ahead and check into it and see the end result, because they're trying to twist my arm, basically, to have another film festival next year, but we'll just have to see how things go, obviously. A lot of that just depends on the fate of the show, clearly, as well as the magazine and other entities, if you've been following. Reminder to everybody also, as it relates to my calendar, it is still coming out this year. It'll be released in December, just in time for Christmas, so I'm very excited. If you haven't checked that out, it's Sin's Calendar of Creatives on Facebook. Please take a point, or at least 2 minutes, 3 minutes, just to check a peek in terms of all the different people that are participating. We have some new entries into that, so I'm super excited to be able to host that this year. And also, if you haven't already done so, my son's comic book is on sale. Again, the name of it is Sergeant Seizure and the Evil Dr. Cuckoo. That is on Facebook. If you visit the Facebook page, because Bad Mommy here can't remember, there's a website on there, excuse me, where you can go ahead and check it out. Do not want to forget to remind everybody to participate in this event before we start our interview today. There is a chef's dinner series that's going on this weekend. It's called Dining for Disaster Relief. There's a benefit that's going to be going on that's going to raise money towards Hurricane Maria relief in Puerto Rico. Very important cause, as we all know, natural disasters left, right, and sideways lately. So basically, the chef's dinner series is partnered up with Puerto Rican-based chef Kevin Roth, who's actually his restaurant was damaged in the hurricane itself. So they're basically going to be partnering up together. They're going to be doing a dinner. They're going to be having a recovery update from one of the CEOs of one of the corporations on there. It's going to be so neat. They're going to have handcrafted cocktails. They're going to have a Caribbean cuisine. And one of the proteges of Wolfgang Puck himself is going to be there. I'm so excited. It's Sunday, November 12th. If I didn't have to go to Atlanta, I'd be going there. It's in New York. It's at a place called Little Owl, the Townhouse on 55 Grove Street, 5:30 to 8:30, Sunday, November 12th. So excited about this. I'm so happy that I'm able to at least talk about it. We're going to try to get the leaders of the particular event on my show. Not sure if we're going to be able to do that. If you're interested, either way, either visit Eventbrite, where it's Chef's Dinner Series in New York City. Otherwise, email chefsdinnerseries@gmail.com for all further details. But please make it a point, if you're in New York City or visiting this weekend, do take an opportunity to go out there and support their efforts. Hugely important. So without further ado, let's get Arielle on the line and we'll begin our interview. This must be the good doctor.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm nervous. Anytime that I interview people that are very educated, like yourself, I always get extremely nervous. Do I have the right questions? Am I going to be smart enough? It's a big deal when you interview doctors, I'm telling you. It's true.
Please don't be nervous. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help answer your questions and make you smarter.
You know, that is such a wonderful cliche, in fact, because I have, in the last week, I've seen almost 4 doctors now. So I'm like, This one will be this will be a lot easier because you're not treating me. So I'm like, I have wonderful questions for you. You're going to be a book of knowledge, and I'm excited because what you're introducing in terms of what's in your book and the product that you have is very different from some of the things that are out there, which I like. I'm excited to talk about it, obviously, and excited to introduce my listening audience to everything that I know about you, because there's a whole bunch that I know about you because I have researched you quite a bit. So we're going to move around a little bit. I understand that you're a doctor of internal medicine. So the first thing we want to do is to define that, not because I'm not intelligent, my audience is not, but when we hear the term doctor, we always generalize everybody. So talk a bit about the sorts of people that you treat when it comes to internal medicine. Again, we just want to kind of put a name and a face together to understand what your day job is.
Sure, absolutely. No, it's a great question. I don't think that internal medicine is necessarily an obvious name for the field.
Right.
Right. So internal medicine basically means that I do general adult medicine. Like what I tell my kids is I'm like the pediatrician, but for adults. So, you know, adults starting, 17 and up see me as their general doctor, and I help them, with various, both managing different medical conditions, but also with providing them with preventive care. So, the difficult task of trying to stay healthy, which to me is actually the most exciting and rewarding part of the job, trying to prevent illness. So I see people of all different kinds, again, starting at age 17 all the way up through their 90s and 100s, men and women.
Oh, my God.
So get to see all sorts of fun stuff. And it's a lot of fun also for me because I get to know people and sort of follow them through the years. And I've been in practice for over 15 years now. So I have some of my younger women who I knew as high school students are now older and moms, and that's a lot of fun to have seen them grow up.
Oh, I bet.
Stay healthy.
Oh, that is cool. So I have to ask you, since you see such a wide range of patients and clients, do you find yourself, I don't want to say favorites per se necessarily, but as it relates to particular patients, let's say, for instance, the majority, your demographic, would you say male, female, particular age, et cetera, or is it really that broad span to where you're just seeing a little bit of everybody?
It's pretty broad. I happen to see more women just because I think a lot of women these days really want to see female doctors. So, that tends to fill my schedule, but I do see a lot of men as well. And, because we have an aging population, I think all physicians these days are seeing a lot of elderly people. And in part, as I say to my younger patients, it's not that I have so many more elderly patients. It's just that they come to the doctor more often. And, younger people tend to not, come as frequently because they tend to have less issues. But, yeah, we see all kinds of things.
So just out of curiosity, now this is funny, folks. We're in the first 5 minutes, and she says to me, oh, don't be nervous. So when I read something like, oh, look, she attended both Stanford and Northwestern, I should certainly not be nervous to interview somebody who's attended both of those elite colleges. I'm like jaw-dropping right there. But there is a question relative to that because oftentimes I get a good degree of individuals that listen that are in the millennial category. So I want to address this a little bit because I always get guests that have two schools of thought. On the one side of the fence, we have your highly educated individuals who've done years' worth of college like yourself. Then on the flip side of the fence, obviously, we have some individuals that have had more life experience. Now, speaking as a doctor, obviously we all know you can't be a doctor without a good number of educational background to you. But this is what I want to know. Speak to your audience of younger individuals that are up and coming and looking at getting into the practice. What would be the best advice to give to them, meaning that I understand that medicine, as I'm told, is ever evolving, changing, and becoming very different. I've even spoken to some doctors who kind of don't necessarily subscribe to the older school medicine. So what would you say to somebody who's saying to themselves, God, I'd love to be a doctor like this person? What would you advise them?
Well, I think that medicine definitely has changed a lot, especially in the time that I've been practicing, or at least since I started training. I still think it's a great field. I think, there's lots of complicated insurance issues and things of that nature. But I try to look at the positive side, which is that something that I've seen evolve greatly since I started in practice is that I think people themselves have become more educated about their own health and trying to stay healthy. And I think that as a physician today, we have a really unique opportunity to really partner with our patients to try to keep them healthy or get healthier. And there's so many incredible resources out there now for this that just did not exist 15, 20 years ago. And I think people are really motivated to get healthier in different ways. And that's actually part of the impetus behind Vitamin, which I know we'll talk about, but my company is, my partner and I recognized this need that people were thirsty for information about health and vitamins, and they wanted to know that they were doing the right thing. And as physicians, we do have the unique ability to help guide people because there is so much information out there that it's a little overwhelming.
Oh, I imagine so. I think not to mention. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I have this interesting question because I just said this the other day to somebody, actually, and you're a perfect person to ask this to. We live in almost 2018, so because of that, we have all sorts of new technological advances. There are probably, and I'm sure you know this as a doctor, we almost kind of can't help ourselves. We almost kind of try to self-diagnose, and I want to talk about this a little bit. Like, for instance, when my doctor says to me, oh, we found this, so there's this going on with you. I think even though we've just sat with the doctor, 90% of us run home, go to the Internet, and then we obsess because the Internet fills us with all sorts of innate fear that we never knew we could have had. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like your doctor can say, it's all fine, and then you come home and you're dying. You know what I'm saying? It's like two different worlds.
Dr. Google sometimes has a different diagnosis. And unfortunately, this is a pitfall that we see a lot, and I think it's challenging to strike that balance between using the resources that we have available to us, but also knowing which sources to trust and using your personal relationship with your physician to help guide you through to really understand the nuances of sort of who you are and how that may or may not make you the same as somebody who's writing about something online. And again, that was one of the many impetuses that led us to found Vitamin, is that people were coming in having done so much internet research on vitamins, and they really were getting to the point where they were just so confused about what vitamins to take because they were hearing so many different conflicting bits of information from friends, from the internet, from TV, and nobody really knew what were the right vitamins to take. And as it turned out, it was not the same for everyone, and that's part of the problem is that people make these big blanket statements like, everyone must take calcium, and that's just not true. It really depends on who you are and what's your diet and, what are your needs. And so sometimes it really takes a good doctor to help guide people to understand that.
I totally agree with that. And what's, like I said, what's tricky about it is we trust our doctors, obviously, and we go in, and I think it's more natural curiosity that a lot of us are driven. And I would assume even doctors are like this. You're content with an answer, but you want to know more. Do you know what I mean? Like when someone, it's almost a natural instinct. When someone's inferring something's wrong with you, you have to dig into it to the point of where you have a full understanding, if that makes sense. So I guess my question is, if you're talking to your patients, do you advise them to maybe steer clear from the Internet or just use it maybe as somewhat of a tool, but not to feed into it necessarily? 100%.
Well, I try to guide people. It depends on the situation. I think sometimes I know what they're going to discover if they start Googling something, so I sort of warn them ahead of time, like, do not Google this. You are not going to get accurate information. Or I try to steer them to an appropriate source. And, I think that's where having a good physician can be helpful because there are some really great sources, but people don't know what they are. We have to help them, guide them to those credible sources. And that's sort of part of it. So no, I would never tell somebody not to, delve further into pursuing information about their own health. I think that's, it's a great thing to be proactive like that, but you just have to understand where to look.
Of course, I understand completely, and thanks for clearing that up, as a matter of fact. Now, because, of course, you've been in this field for a while, and I know that you have a special interest in women's health, I'm curious to ask you, again, because we're in a new decade here, and obviously as more things are getting healed, per se, more things are starting to crop up in terms of things that we're learning about women's studies and health. Can you possibly touch on some of the things these days that you're noticing that are becoming more of a trend, or maybe things that women should be more conscious about in terms of their health as we're starting to age a little bit more? Maybe, let's say, in the degree of like 35 to 50 age range?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a crucial time period for people to be really proactive about their health. It's sort of like the premenopausal years and, childbearing, end of childbearing. I think one thing that we've found, and this again ties into my special interest in both women's health and vitamins, is that many women in this age group are actually iron deficient. And this is something that has changed somewhat over time, because as a culture, as a society, we are eating a little bit less red meat than we once did. So we're not all getting that source of iron like we once did. And in addition, what we've discovered is that not only does we look at a regular blood count sometimes to see if we're anemic, but that is not an accurate measure of total body iron stores. And it turns out that when we look at our total body iron stores, many women in this age group, and even older and younger, are actually deficient overall in iron. And this is something that can affect us in a lot of ways down the road. It can lead to fatigue. It can lead to thinning hair. It can cause brittle, cracked nails. It can affect things like your sleep by causing restless leg syndrome. There's a whole host of effects we see from this. And so this is something that we should all be conscious of. Also in that age group, we need to think about building our bones, which is so important for the future, because the more we study this, the more we realize that osteoporosis can have a huge impact on both our quality of life and our longevity when we get older. And the time to really be focused on it is, in these earlier years when you can still build strong bones. So that's something where exercise plays a key role. It's also something where, getting the right nutrients, either through food and or vitamins like, calcium and vitamin D are absolutely essential.
Right. I was just going to say that, as a matter of fact. And that's great, helpful advice, certainly, because as we age, sadly, sometimes I think it's a little bit easier for men. They tend to mature better. They tend to have certain advantages that we may or may not necessarily have. So I thought, well, let's just throw those out of there. So I have to ask you, because obviously your day job, finds you being an actual physician, and I know that you've released a book with your partner, which we'll be talking about. So when you switch gears and you're being more the author side of things, is that a little bit different for you, or have you authored something prior to this, or is this your first creation writing-wise?
It's my first published book for the lay press. I've published some scientific articles before, and it's a good question, because it was definitely a bit of a challenge at first for my business partner and co-author, Dr. Rami Block, and I, to go from being, our day job as physicians to, first as entrepreneurs founding Blue Vitamin, but then writing our book, The Vitamin Solution. It was a bit of a leap, because we are used to talking a little bit in medical jargon, and, that's sort of how we often are writing things. So we had to kind of slow it down, take a step back, say, okay, remember, this is like having a conversation with a patient or a friend. This is not, writing a medical journal. But I think I'd like to think that we were successful in the Vitamin Solution in doing that. And we've gotten a lot of really good feedback from tons of people all over the country, actually, saying that they feel like the book is really accessible and understandable, and that it feels more like having a conversation with a friend who is a doctor, than something real clinical.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And you want that, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I mean, we did not want to write a dry, boring, scientific book that nobody was going to have use for.
Understand.
We really wanted it to, something that people do seem to be interested in what we have to say. Because, we comment on a lot of different topics. We talk about vitamins and sort of all their different roles in health and who can benefit from which vitamins for which conditions. But we also talk about general health topics, different screening tests, and we try to weigh in on those things and really clear some of the confusion that you do hear out there. Do I get a mammogram every year? Don't I get a mammogram? Do I take calcium? Do I not take calcium? These things that you keep hearing in the news, and you feel like you hear so many different things you don't even know what to think anymore.
That's exactly right. As a matter of fact, that touches on one of the questions that I had, which was clearly because everybody seems to have their own opinion, and you always get different pieces of advice as it relates to who you're speaking to, etc. Is there such a thing, meaning that, okay, I'll give you a perfect example of this because I was just talking to my doctor about this the other day. He had one opinion about a condition. Then you speak to another doctor, they have another opinion on that. So I guess if we were intelligent individuals, and obviously most of us want to trust our physicians and we want to trust what's told to us, but oftentimes the analogy given to us is you always trust your body at the end of the day. You can have the best doctor in the world, but if your body is saying to you X, Y, Z or whatever have you, and you trust in that, you can't go wrong. So as a doctor, I ask you, at what point do we say to ourselves, okay, it's okay and it's comfortable and it's safe for us to be able to say, you know what, I'm hearing my doctor, but I need to trust what my body's saying. You follow me?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I guess it's a little challenging to know the answer to that. And again, it probably varies on a case-by-case basis.
Sure.
There are going to be certain situations where, unfortunately, you can't always feel a condition or, know that a certain problem is going on. And that's where we do have to sort of look to science and the medical profession to help guide us. But of course, then there are always going to be situations where, you should trust your body and you should, pursue things. And I guess I think that that's where having a physician that you really trust and can work with well is really important. And I think if that's the case and you feel something that they may not be aware of, keeping them really, aware of your feelings on the subject is probably a good idea. And hopefully you can sort of partner together and figure out what the right answer is. And, medicine really is very much an art as well as a science. So we all have to remember that.
Exactly right. And I wanted to ask, if we as patients, if one of the things we should be doing when we're speaking to you, period, and especially this will relate to the vitamin conversation we're going to have, oftentimes if you're going to be treating an individual, I would almost assume it would behoove us to almost keep, not a journal necessarily, but maybe a notebook, jotting down observations about ourselves, our body, how we react to things, when we take things, what seems to help us. Do you think that might be helpful in the regard of trying to determine what sorts of things to recommend to us that are better for our body?
Well, I think it as a patient, I think just like in any situation, you definitely should be responsible for conveying these things to your healthcare provider. So yes, I always find it helpful when I'm seeing a patient for a checkup that if they have made a list of questions beforehand or concerns, I think it definitely makes the visit go more smoothly. And it really helps, as a physician, it helps me focus on their needs. Because, again, everything, your needs as a patient are very much determined by your own experience of the world. I can't assume that when I'm seeing one woman that she has the same needs as the woman I saw an hour ago, because your diet may be different, your lifestyle may be different, you may be having some different symptoms. And that's actually also the basis for VU Vitamin, is that we're not all the same, and we all need an individualized vitamin regimen that's tailored to our needs. And we're somewhat responsible for figuring out what that is.
Oh, sure. Now, That's a great segue to beginning to speak about this, as a matter of fact. I can remember back in the day, and I'm sure we've all heard this at one point in time, I think that there was some sort of a stigma back in the day. When people talk about vitamins, it's always about, oh, we need to take a vitamin because we need to improve upon this or improve upon that. And I do believe that incorporating vitamins into your daily diet is something that's improving. But I think that the stigma surrounding vitamins back in the day and what they're used for now, I think might be changing just a wee bit, or the perception as it relates to that product might be different. Would you agree with that necessarily? Because I think times have changed with that.
Yeah, well, I think that, again, I think that for a long time, vitamins were, well, number one, people felt you only needed to take vitamins if you weren't eating a good and healthy diet, which it turns out is not true, as much as we wish we could get all the nutrients that we want from food that we eat. Unfortunately, that is no longer a reality. Our food supply is not nearly as nutritious as it once was. A lot of things like demineralization of the soil have happened where we just don't get the nutrients that we once did. And in addition, other things have changed, like I mentioned before, many of us are iron deficient because we eat less red meat than we used to. Many of us eat less table salt than we used to, and we're therefore iodine deficient, which is something that we put into certain vitamins. And another thing that's changed is people are now all vitamin D deficient if they're not taking vitamin D. And some of that is because we're more aware of the issue, but also some of it is because we're not out roasting in the sun and getting skin cancer anymore. Which is a good thing. But when it comes to vitamin D, we probably need to step it up. Things have changed in the sense, part of it is just our lifestyles have changed, but part of it is also our knowledge has changed about vitamins, and we now realize that many of us do have nutritional deficiencies that need to be addressed. We didn't know that necessarily. I mean, we used to just say, take a multivitamin.
And I'm a true testament of that. In fact, I was just put on vitamin D like a year ago or so it's like 2,000 milligrams a day. And I had no idea that I was deficient, as a matter of fact. I had to go to a doctor, and then they did some test or whatever for something else, and they were like, oh, we checked your iron and da-da-da-da-da, and they're like, it's a very common problem for age group whatever, and I'm not revealing my age because most of you probably know it anyway, but you know what I mean? It seems as though it's not uncommon for women, and I never knew that. I always assumed that, I'm eating enough of this or this or this, but I never really knew that until the doctor advised me of that. And so, of course, every day in the morning is just a ritual, taking the vitamin D and making sure of that. And, granted, I don't get enough sun, but I'm still taking a vitamin for that. So it's interesting how none of this ever occurs to you, and then all of a sudden somebody brings it to mind, and then you become so cognizant of, I need to be doing this to better my own body. You know what I'm saying? Obviously.
Yeah, sure.
Like your concept with Blue Vitamin. I have to ask, that name, I love the name of that vitamin. That's the first thing I noticed about it was I fell in love with it, and I have to ask you where that came from. What made you pick that name for your product?
So Vous means you in French, and really we feel like it's very representative of who we are and what we do at Vous Vitamin. We create the right vitamins for you. And as I said before, we're not all the same. We don't have the same vitamin needs, and that's a key thing that everybody needs to understand when they're trying to figure out what they should be taking, because just because your neighbor is taking something does not mean that you should be. You really have to look at who you are and what your needs are. So when we were looking for a name for the company, Vous really spoke to us because we're trying to emphasize the personalized nature of this. And our multivitamins are just that. I mean, they are created to meet the individual's needs. People take a survey online about themselves that, gives us all sorts of great information about who they are, how old they are, what region of the country they live in. That also is important. What their diet's like, how they feel, what symptoms they're having, what health issues they've had. And all of these things then really help us get a whole picture of the individual so we can really give them a high-quality multivitamin that meets their needs. And so that's where Vous came from. It's a nice French word. It has a nice ring to it, obviously.
It does. and it applies so well. I mean, it's just so perfect. You literally could not have a better name for that. So kudos on that one, I have to say.
Oh,
One
thank
of the
you.
first things, you're quite welcome. One of the first things that I noticed that I thought was very cool about the product was, first of all, it's gluten-free and no meat, no dairy, and it's non-GMO in terms of your products. Now, I want to ask you, is that done because from a physician side of things, you know that this is better for individuals, or on the personal side of things? Because sometimes people go gluten-free and just have a preference to that. Or is there a medical reasoning in how this factors in with vitamins? Just forgive me. I'm just very ignorant when it comes to this. So why making that selection?
We made our products, we wanted our product to be of the highest quality, and that was sort of one of our missions in creating our multivitamins, because as physicians, what we learned about the vitamin industry is that unfortunately there are a lot of very poor quality products out there, and unfortunately the consumer is at a real disadvantage as far as knowing what is a good quality product and what is not. The FDA does not regulate the manufacturing of vitamins and supplements. So these products are not really scrutinized the same way a prescription drug is. So unfortunately, there's a lot of actually kind of scary things going on out there with what's being put into products. And sometimes, what's even the label says is in something is not what's really in it, and there can be other contaminants and things in it. So it was our mission to create high-quality, trustworthy products for our customers that we as physicians could really stand by. And we did so by getting a good manufacturer practice seal of approval, which is a regulation that we've taken on ourselves to ensure purity and quality. With that, we decided that we would not include gluten in our products because it wasn't necessary, and we know that many people are gluten-free for a variety of reasons today. So that's part of it. And we just wanted to make our products as pure and free of additives as absolutely possible. We really sort of took them and distilled them to the essence of exactly what's medically needed and nothing more. If you look at our list of ingredients, they're much shorter than, your generic multivitamin off the shelf, which has a bazillion ingredients. You don't know what they are. You don't know why they're there. You don't know if they're helping you or hurting you. So ours are much cleaner.
And that's so impressive, too, because right off the bat, automatically, that's just the healthiest way to go, period, for any kind of product, actually. I'm always impressed when you're listing off 2 or 3 things that you already know that are not good for you, that are already not in the product. That's already a positive sign to begin with. Second of all, I want to go through what you call your situational supplements, obviously. There's a difference between regular vitamin supplements and these situational supplements. Like, for instance, there's 3 different types that you have listed: the Recovery Act, the Power Up, and the Immune Blast. Now, give us an example where somebody might use one of these, what you call situational supplements, and how do those vary a bit from, obviously, a regular vitaminal sort of supplement?
So our concept is that just as we don't all need to take the same vitamins on a daily basis as part of a multivitamin, and we go with a more personalized daily vitamin approach at Blue Vitamin, not every day is the same either for any of us. So there are going to be certain days and certain times when we all need a little something extra depending on the situation. So what we did is we created these situational supplements, which are sort of like add-on products that one would take at different times depending on their needs. So, for example, we have the Immune Blast, which somewhat speaks for itself. It's an immune booster that people can take when they're feeling run down, feeling like they're starting to come down with a cold, something like that. This time of year, we're seeing a lot of that, and it's a great support to the immune system to help you fight off whatever you may be coming down with. But it has things in it that you wouldn't necessarily want to take every day. And then likewise, we have the Power Up, which is a nice little energy booster for a time when you may either be feeling sluggish and needing some energy, or you've done, something particularly strenuous like an extra workout where you need some extra electrolyte replenishment, that kind of thing. And it's nice because it's a tablet form. It doesn't have calories, it doesn't have sugar, it doesn't have caffeine, or a lot of the things that other quote-unquote energy products have. And
Gotcha.
then the third one we have is what's called the Recovery Act, which is kind of a fun one. As physicians, we are well aware of how hospitals treat people who have drank a lot of alcohol. If you were to wind up in the hospital for whatever reason after drinking alcohol, they give you an intravenous IV infusion of something called a banana bag, and they call it a banana bag because it's this bright yellow IV solution that's packed with different nutrients and electrolytes that help combat the toxicity of alcohol. And it turns out that this really helps a lot, helps people feel better quickly, helps people minimize side effects. And we basically created the banana bag, but in a pill form. And what our customers tell us is that if they take our little pill when they've been drinking, even especially like that evening, it really helps prevent a hangover. So that's, so people enjoy taking the Recovery Act. It seems to make people feel better.
That's awesome. Oh, my gosh. In fact, I came across you had contributed to a particular magazine, and I can't remember what the name of it is right off the top of my head, and it dealt with that topic, as a matter of fact, what to eat to beat a hangover. I'm not sure if that was yourself or your partner. And I thought to myself, how cool is that? That's awesome information. All of us have been hungover at one point in time or another, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we definitely do not promote drinking to excess, but we know there are times, and unfortunately, as we get older, sometimes we're more sensitive to the effects of alcohol, so, we all need to function the next day.
That's neat. It is, and all of us have run into that situation, so I totally get that. And it's nice to have those, like you're saying, situational supplements, because each one of us, our body chemistry and makeup is a little bit different. So clearly, all of us are going to have different situations, different sorts of lifestyles, which will require different forms of pills to take, or in this case, vitamins, I should say. I found it interesting while I was perusing. I see that you have listed it's 5 minutes to design your personalized multivitamin. Now, again, forgive my ignorance, but I'm thinking to myself, in my brain, I'm thinking, really? It only takes 5 minutes to design your own multivitamin? This seems a little wild. I'm like, oh, my God. Is it me, or does that seem so quick? Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's probably a bit of a misstatement in the sense that it's 5 minutes of you answering extensive questions about yourself, and then we will design your multivitamin. So we're taking, 30 cumulative years of medical experience and doing that. But
it's just you go on the website and it looks like that, and it says, oh, take 5 minutes and then we'll do this. So that's what we want to talk about, which is if somebody goes on there and they fill in this necessary information and they funnel it to you, I guess, what sorts of things, what are some of the factors that you take into consideration, in terms of developing personalized vitamins for someone? Because that's a little different than just saying take vitamin so-and-so.
Right, exactly. So what we have, our customers go to VOUSvitamin.com, VOUSvitamin.com, and they take probably really more like a 7 to 8 minute survey, to be truthful, unless you're super speedy. And the survey does ask a lot of details about both your background as far as age and things of that nature, as well as a bunch of medical type issues, lifestyle related factors about diet, what your exercise habits are like, sleep habits, alcohol, smoking, all those different types of things. And then in addition to symptoms you might be having, we have a long list of symptoms that one can check off, such as, thinning hair, fatigue, migraine, irritable bowel, you name it. And then we use all of that information to create a multivitamin formulation that really makes sense for you, given all of those factors. Because again, not everybody is the same in their vitamin needs. And believe it or not, taking the wrong vitamins can actually be harmful. Taking too much of even good vitamins can be harmful. People don't always realize that. They think, I'll just take a lot of, stuff, and then whatever I don't need, I'll just my body will get rid of. I'll pee it out, they always say. But that is not true. Too much of a good thing is not better. You can actually cause yourself great harm by taking too many of the wrong vitamins. So we work really hard to give people a multivitamin that is, Blue Vitamin stands behind and is targeted to their needs and is not going to give them too much of anything.
Sure.
So that's how Blue works. And, once they go onto the website and then they spend that time and they fill in that information, etc., I want to be clear about this. When you're putting together these specified personalized vitamins, is there, because obviously I'm guessing you can't order this for your children or, let's say, younger adults, etc., or can you? I was going to say I wasn't quite sure if there was an age limitation as it relates to this. No, Blue Vitamin at this time is just for adults. I will not tell you. I mean, we've definitely, considered launching a pediatric line, but for the time being, it is for men and women.
Gotcha.
And is tailored to their needs.
I've got it. Okay, so for instance, let's talk about particular scenarios where one would think it might be more challenging to put together something such as a multivitamin. For instance, the top two things that I thought about were somebody who might be pregnant, somebody who might be elderly, or even more so, there are some studies that have indicated that vitamins might be helpful in treating things such as mental health conditions. So can you speak to any of those categories in terms of how helpful your personalized vitamins can or cannot be in those circumstances? I was just curious on those things.
Sure, absolutely.
Those are normal things.
I think all of those are circumstances where people can benefit from the right multivitamin. So for pregnant women, vitamin needs are extremely important. First of all, just even getting pregnant is a time when women should be focusing on taking the right vitamins. Some of the key vitamins that we've discussed already, like iron, vitamin D, iodine, which is absolutely essential for thyroid support during pregnancy, but again, in a safe amount. These are all really important, in addition to folic acid, which is something that I know, any good prenatal vitamin has as well. Which is very important to fetal development. In addition, sometimes calcium, depending on your dietary intake of calcium. All of these things are really important for both getting pregnant, maintaining a pregnancy, and then even in the postpartum period, especially if you're nursing. So, those are things to think about. We do recommend, for pregnant women taking our products, that they take an additional fish oil or DHA product, which is the omega-3s. Which are also important for fetal development, and those are not included in a multivitamin. But in addition, you mentioned the geriatric population, and in that group of people, there's also a lot of major vitamin needs. The vitamin D we touched on. Something else that we haven't talked about yet, I don't think, but is really important are certain B vitamins, like vitamin B12, which is essential for important for nerve function, which can also play a huge role in memory, and just general sort of wellness. Magnesium can be really important for muscle function. It also can be helpful for people with high blood pressure. It can prevent leg cramps and muscle cramps, and also can play a role in sleeping well. So that's something we also tend to see a lot in this population. So those are just a few examples of things that we focus on with the elderly. And, of course, bone health, which is always important at any age. And then I think the last thing you mentioned was mental health, which, is a huge obviously something that affects many, many people. And what we find is that certain vitamin deficiencies can actually play a big role in some of the symptoms of depression and anxiety. We find that things like iron deficiency can actually mimic depression. People feel tired all the time, exhausted, can interpret it as depression, but often the iron plays a role. So sometimes supplementing with iron and doing so properly is very important with a tolerable form of iron, and taking it in combination with vitamin C for proper absorption. Other things that play a role in mental health also can be the B vitamins, not just B12, but things like B1 and folic acid. Magnesium also can be useful in this setting. And sometimes we also recommend a fish oil add-on when it comes to mental health as well. So those are just a few of the things that we think about in those scenarios. But again, it largely comes down to the individual too. So lots of factors.
Gotcha. Now, obviously, of course, because this whole entire subject matter can be so confusing about vitamins and things things that we know or don't know, of course. We want to talk about this, of course, leading to why you wrote the book, clearly, because there's so much confusion going on out there. I had just read the other day I had read this particular article, as a matter of fact, where people were talking about how vitamin supplements can actually increase your risk of some very dangerous things, for instance, cancer and heart disease. There are some things that talk about just vitamins just being so secretive, meaning that they're considered to have hidden dangers associated with them. So I guess we should probably tackle that head on in terms of...
Sure. No, that is really a great topic.
Oh, so, wonderful. Good. So I want you to address that, because that's a huge thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As I was saying, what people don't always realize is that taking too much of even a good thing, or taking the wrong vitamins, can really be harmful. I think people sometimes think, oh, well, it's natural, so therefore it can't hurt me, and why not? It turns out, though, that, taking too much of certain vitamins is actually, there are a lot of negative associations. One great example of that is something like vitamin A. Vitamin A is a vitamin that most Americans are not deficient in. We get a lot of vitamin A in our food supply, and it's a fat-soluble vitamin, so it stays with us. We don't tend to be depleted in it, yet many common over-the-counter multivitamins contain vitamin A. And it turns out that supplemental vitamin A has been associated with higher risks of cancer, osteoporosis, lots of things that we don't want. So why would I take vitamin A if I don't need it? And, if you look at some of these multivitamins, so they have huge amounts of vitamin A. So, people who are starving, people in, certain continents like Africa, they're often vitamin A deficient because they're so malnourished. But that's a completely different story than most Americans. So that's, a classic example of something I would not want to take. Another thing that is included in a lot of common multivitamins are a lot of heavy metals, things like zinc, aluminum, nickel, and these are not things that you want to take on a regular basis. These are, heavy metals have been associated with different forms of dementia and other things like that. So I do not advocate taking them every day, and I do not advocate taking a multivitamin that contains them. So these are some examples of certain vitamin products that really can be harmful. And then again, as I said, sometimes even the good vitamins, if you take too much of them, can be very harmful. Something like vitamin D, which, we're huge fans of. We think it's essential that most people take some. But if you take too much, you really can get into trouble. And in our book, The Vitamin Solution, we even have a whole chapter called Vitamin Horror Stories, where we talk about real cases we've seen of people who have overdosed on vitamins and gotten very sick. And we've seen people in the intensive care unit just from taking vitamin D. And so this is something that really needs to be watched. It needs to be, done in a proper dose. More is not always better. So it's an important lesson.
There's a side question to that, too, because there are some that have actually talked about, and most of us wouldn't even think about this. I would have never thought that there is statements out there that claim that there are some very serious side effects depending on the vitamins that you take. So, again, I want to ask the obvious question, which is, should we be prepared for some sort of minimal, or in this case, they're saying very serious side effects does that depend on how much you're taking, what you're taking? Is that even true?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a recent study in the New England Journal of Medicine. There are about 27,000 emergency room visits every year related to vitamin toxicity. So people are getting lots and lots of problems from taking the wrong vitamins. A lot of these come from various, energy or diet, / weight loss products, which actually contain lots of potentially harmful substances like high doses of caffeine and stimulants. But many are for other reasons too. And so this is why we really advocate getting some proper guidance on what you're taking. And that does not mean that the stock boy in the grocery store in the vitamin aisle. We really recommend that you do this under physician guidance, and that is exactly why we founded Boo Vitamin, because we felt like the public needed some guidance in this area. And so that's why we founded Boo Vitamin. That's why we wrote The Vitamin Solution, was really to help give people some guidance and some medical expertise.
Well, and as you were mentioning, so the name of the book, folks, that we're talking about right now, it's called Two Doctors Clear the Confusion About Vitamins and Your Health, which was actually done, if I'm not mistaken, it was originally penciled in 2015. Is that correct?
Yeah, we came out right the end of 2015. And
that's what I thought.
Yeah,
okay,
the Vitamin Solution, it's you can find it anywhere that books are sold. It's, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, at your local bookseller. It's in over 300 libraries around the world. We've won, I think, 6 or 7 awards now for the Vitamin Solution. So people are really enjoying it.
It's actually 7 awards. I do know. It's actually 7 awards because I found that. They've been featured in Reader's Digest, WGN, Fox News, New York Post, ABC, like countless numbers of places this has been talked about. And, of course, obviously, one of the other misnomers that I've heard a lot about is sometimes it's been suggested that there are some individuals out there, depending on their factors and circumstances, that really don't need to take supplements, period. What would you say to someone like that? Because there are some that say, you know what, there are just some bodies and some individuals that will never need a vitamin supplement in their life. How would you respond to something like that?
I would say it's rare. I don't want to say it's impossible. But it's pretty hard to be perfect in all realms. Most people are falling short on one thing or another. Again, especially something like vitamin D, which you need a ton of sun exposure to get enough, I should say. And you're probably causing yourself to have skin cancer if that's the case.
Okay.
So, I would say that very few people are perfect on all counts nutritionally, but I don't want to say it's impossible. I'm sure there's somebody out there. I haven't met them yet, but they may be out there.
I was just going to say, and I'm sure that they exist, of course. And the other topic, since I'm picking your brain, and I hope you don't mind, because this all lends itself to why the people should buy the book and they should go to the website and they should do all of this, because Liz, how knowledgeable she is. She can answer all my questions. God knows she can answer anything. One of the things that I thought about was, because we live in an industry where we have tons of people that are working out in gyms, you have tons of people that are involved with sports, especially in professional sports. So as it relates to vitamin usage in terms of professional sports players or people that work out, fitness trainers, things like that, sometimes there's been this rumor out there that I've read in more than one occasion that states that sometimes people tend to overuse vitamins in that capacity. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I am curious because I would think people that work out in the gym or are very big on fitness, etc., are all about that sort of vitamin usage sort of thing.
Vitamins definitely can play an important role in fitness and in getting healthier. And people who exercise extensively definitely need more of certain vitamins. Especially we see the B vitamins and certain electrolytes, magnesium, etc., being especially important there. But you're right that there are a lot of products on the market that are sort of geared towards the fitness crowd, and some of them definitely can be dangerous. We see a lot of the protein powders and creatine type products, which really can be overdone, and sometimes it's not that the protein itself is the problem, though it can be actually. It can cause kidney damage if you take too much. But sometimes it's some of the additives in these products, which again are not necessarily going to be listed on the label, because sometimes there are things in them that should not be in them. And so I always recommend that people really proceed with caution if they're looking to bulk up and build muscle. We have a great blog on our site at VuVitamin, which, by the way, is a nice feature of VuVitamin.com, is we have a nice blog where we talk about a lot of different health health issues, and then health concerns and vitamins. And we do have a whole blog that talks about protein and kind of what's the best way to get it, how much, how it's being overdone in certain situations.
Sure. And of course, and I was just going to mention that, so she led right into that. Wow, it's almost like she read the interview before I said it. Now, on the blog, as I've read certain different things that are on there, of course, one of the things that I notice, it's neat because they go from topic to topic and they cover a wide range and variety of different things and such. And one of the things after I've read some of your blogs, in the back of my head, all I was thinking was, so if Cindy wants to go next week to go pick out her own vitamins, it almost sounds like I wouldn't be too smart in doing that. I'm almost kind of leery. Do you know what I mean? Because once you hear all of this, kind of like, should I be concerned and maybe I shouldn't be dabbling with this until I ask XYZ? So I have to ask the question. So if people are listening in, would you just say, okay, consult with a physician, then go and get something? Or are we still kind of like, well, we're still okay to be going out and picking out something if we think it's in our better interest?
Well, I don't know that people necessarily have the expertise to be picking out their own vitamins, truthfully, and that's really why we founded VuVitamin, because, again, patients were coming to us asking us, well, what should I be taking, what shouldn't I be taking? And in truth, not every physician actually has the background to answer those questions. It's not something that is traditionally taught in medical schools very much. It's something that Dr. Block and I worked very hard to educate ourselves about, did a lot of extensive medical research to figure out really what the truth was about vitamins. So I think that getting some guidance, getting, again, some input based on who you are and what your needs are is really important. And again, that's why we created VuVitamin. You can go online. You can take a brief survey there, which will give you some answers about what you should be taking. And we will create a personalized multivitamin for you that suits your needs.
And that's so cool. I mean, that's just the neatest idea as far as that goes. And what's nice about it is the fact that you know that you have two individuals who are highly schooled and not just in book school smarts, in terms of actually they've done their homework, they've done their research, they put a top-of-the-line product together that's safe for individuals, and they know their stuff. I mean, I've read all sorts of reviews, not only about your book, but about the product and how pleased people are and how surprised that they didn't know a lot of the things that you're talking about. Most of us lay people, as I call us, don't, because we don't have that sort of background. We never would think of that. I think nothing of walking up and just picking up a vitamin and thinking, okay, well, I've heard this does this. Vitamin C, I get a cold, you go buy vitamin C. You know what I mean? It's kind of that old sort of mentality of we do this. And this whole thing, learning and having to research all of this, has really kind of changed my way of thinking in terms of how one would approach something like this. And, of course, I would be remiss without asking this question, since we are not fortunate enough to have your co-founder with us. Could you please tell your listening audience a bit about the co-founder of the book and, of course, about the products, that we know that there are two people involved in this. Sadly, we just have one out of the two, which is fine, but we do want to talk about her, if you wouldn't mind, and tell us a bit about what she contributed.
So Rami Block is my business partner, co-author, co-founder of VuVitamin. She is also a practicing physician. She's an endocrinologist. She specializes in endocrine and metabolism, has done a lot with thyroid and other endocrine conditions over the years. And she and I actually, we met through work, but we have been great friends for years, and we together co-founded VuVitamin because we both felt like we were hearing this continual confusion from our patients about vitamins and what they should or shouldn't be taking to be healthy and feel their best. And
Gotcha.
so Rami and I have worked together to create VU Vitamin and our products, as well as to write the vitamin solution. And we have a lot of topics in there that both myself as a general internist have spoken towards, but she too is an endocrinologist with specialty in, endocrine metabolism. We talk about a lot of hormonal issues in the book, which is her area of expertise, as well as bone health. We hit on all of that.
Now, maybe it's just me, but I thought to myself when I had done all this research and learned about this, in the back of my head, I am thinking that these two doctors might have another book in them. Is that possible that you might be producing another project? That's just an assumption based on what I know.
I would say, nothing is imminent at the moment, but there definitely, we have some wheels turning. There are some additional topics we would love to cover. So stay tuned and keep checking at VuVitamin.com, because we do regular blogs there where we put lots of nice information, and we answer a lot of the questions that patients have brought to us over the years there.
Oh, you bet. Definitely. Well, good deal. Now, I want to read off a bunch of different places where folks can find you. When I get done, just let me know if I've missed anything, because I think I caught everything, but we'll try here. The name of the website, again, is VU, and just so you folks know how to spell that, it's VOUS. So it's VuVitamin.com. They have a Facebook page, which is VU Personalized Vitamin. It's at VU Vitamin on Twitter. They also have LinkedIn, Pinterest, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Goodreads, and, of course, you, Dr. Levitan, can be found. I found you on the northshore.org website. So I'm assuming if folks want to come in either, I guess I should ask if you're taking patients before I put the plug out there. Yes, you should go see Dr. Arielle. But I should probably ask you first.
If you're in the Chicago area, I do practice medicine in the northern suburbs of Chicago.
Aha, gotcha. All right. Now, by chance, because I didn't get to ask you this and I wasn't sure, are you both going to be doing any events, or are there places where people can meet you? Because I know the book came out a while ago, but that doesn't mean you're not still doing signings or events, or if you have anything coming up where folks can meet you.
We do have a bunch of stuff coming up. Unfortunately, I don't have that's terrible, but I don't have my calendar in front of me. I know we have a bunch of health-related events coming up in January. So, if you check the website, VuVitamin.com, we will be getting we tend not to do a lot around the holidays, because we know people are very focused on the holidays and all that comes with it. And then January 1st seems to be when everybody wants to get healthy again. So we'll be ready and waiting for you then. But in the meantime, you can check out our website, VuVitamin.com, get some good health tips to stay healthy for the holidays and not fall off the wagon. So you need to, go and start over again in January.
Oh, my God, that's too funny. And not to mention the fact, of course, that obviously these holidays kill us when it comes to eating and all that good stuff, and, and the drinking and the indulging, of course. So self-care is clearly
we actually
important.
have a blog on the site about how to stay healthy during the holidays.
They have a blog. Of course they do.
Yeah, we've got some good tips.
Now, if anybody who listens today by chance goes to the website and they take the time and they want the personalized vitamin put together, so from start to finish, before I forget to mention this, how long is it before somebody will actually receive their actual personalized vitamins? How long does the process take for them to get something in hand?
Our products ship within the week. So depending on where you live, you are likely to have your multivitamin in hand within, 10 to 14 days. So.
That's awesome. Okay, so they turn around this quick. That's terrific. Well, wonderful. I would love to say that I'm going to try this product out, as a matter of fact. I wouldn't mind doing it, actually. We'll see how the doctor does. I have a medical condition I'm being treated for now, and so I guess the next week will reveal whether I need more stuff or what's going to happen. I'm not sure. So either you'll end up getting me to subscribe to you, or I have to wait longer. I guess we'll just have to see what my doctor says. But all of you healthy folks out there have absolutely no excuse not to do the VU vitamin thing. Or if you don't want to get the vitamins, go out and get the book. As we mentioned, it's called The Vitamin Solution. Two doctors clear the confusion about vitamins in your health. You can find it in all those particular places that I mentioned. I want to tell you, Arielle, before I forget, about 2 hours from now, this live episode will become archived, so I'll send you both the copy from Blog Talk Radio plus the YouTube link, because we upload these to YouTube, of course. So you'll have both copies of those as far as that. And, of course, the next time a next project comes out, if I've done you well enough, hopefully you'll consider coming back to the show. It was such a pleasure to learn all of this.
Absolutely.
You're a wonderful guest.
Great talking to you.
Well, thank you.
So much.
I'm sorry that it's
really
taken us a while.
it.
Oh, my God. Well, and, of course, I'm always, I'm in Milwaukee, so you guys are only 90 miles away, so I'm like, oh, my God, you're so close. So we're like distant cousins here.
Yeah, you are.
Literally.
Close.
Well, we are very close, and my hope is that with any luck at all these people listen to this today and they realize that this is something that's to be taken seriously for good reason, because we want to keep ourselves healthy front, top, and sideways. And if it's just as simple as consulting with a physician and getting the right vitamins or getting a specialized product that meets your needs, it's important. And so it was important to me to spotlight on that. Definitely. So get another book written, then you come back. I think that's the agreement we should have. You're going to write another book, come back, or just come back because you have a bunch of events, or just come back, period, just because I like you and you're so smart and much smarter than me, doctor. But I thank you for the time that you gave me. I really appreciate it. And I'll get that sent over late tonight so that this way you have it. And like I said, don't be a stranger. We would love to have you back anytime.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Anytime, dear. You have a great evening. We'll talk to you soon.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Tell me that woman was not like 8,000% more smarter than me. Just before I forget, I don't want to forget to mention her name was Dr. Arielle Levitan, and that's spelled Arielle is A-R-I-E-L-L-E, Levitan is L-E-V-I-T-A-N. As she mentioned, she practices in North Shore of Chicago, obviously. There's a bunch of events that will be coming up, and I want to remind you one more time, the website is VooVitamin.com. They have a Facebook presence, which is Voo Personalized Vitam. The Twitter handle, again, at VooVitamin. And, again, the places to find her, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and then the product itself is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and Goodreads. That would be the book itself. The name, again, The Vitamin Solution. 2 doctors clear the confusion about vitamins and your health. Do not want to forget this. Beth Richmond, I cannot thank you enough, Beth. First of all, for your persistence, for your patience, for your organizational skills as it relates to putting this interview together. You were an absolute doll to deal with, and they were lovely, wonderful guests. I can't thank you enough for putting this show together. Thank you so much to my listening audience, because I'm not usually on this late, but we had the doctor today, like I mentioned. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock show, we are having the originator of what we call Blunto cards, and I was talking about this on the show the other day. He has actually literally created a card game, which is very similar to Uno, and if you think about the logic of a drinking game and apply it to using blunts instead of alcohol, you've kind of got the premise. But the founder is going to be on the show, 2 o'clock Central Standard Time tomorrow. Thanks so much, Emily, for organizing that one. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. I'm going to sit here, watch basically a little reality television, have a glass of wine, and try to relax and absorb all this mental health stuff. You guys have a great night. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.
The United Performing Arts Fund invites you to expose yourself to talking animals, to plays about pee-pee, to ideas that won't fit in 140 digital characters. Expose yourself to real characters, to Beethoven, to women who dig very hairy men. No matter what you're into, there's a performance this season that has it. So just buy a ticket. It never goes down the same way twice, but go down it will, right here in Milwaukee. Find your performance at mkearts.com. You don't have to wear fancy pants just to listen to Mozart. The United Performing Arts Fund says, come as you are. What? You need a tux to see a play about singing zombies? A monocle to watch some talking animals? Like the man said, this is our town. And no matter what you're into, there's a performance this season that has it. So just buy a ticket, because something real is happening. Right here, right now, in Milwaukee. Find your performance at mkearts.com.